You hate the song, so don't even smile and act like you like the music. Peggy told me that she took a poll and that was unanimous that I need to change our intro music. And I looked at the numbers and it was one person, and I think it was your fingerprints were on there. So we're going to do a thing. Hey, everyone, welcome to Thursday evening, the BAC Story. I had to fess up because someone asked me said, I love the name Back to Zero. How'd you come up with it? And I started to lie, and they saw it in my eyes, so I finally fessed up and said, Peggy came up with it, which hurt. And then someone said, I love the BAC Story. Where'd you come up with that? And I lied again, and they saw through it. And so I'm sticking with the theme because that's my music that I played with my trombone. Not that cut, but I did play that song. How are you doing?
I'm good. I just walked in the door basically from training in a very small town in Northern California called McCollum Hill. And the hotel I stayed in is famous for non-alcoholic spirits. And it actually is on Travel Channel and Ghost Adventures because there actually are 7 spirits that have been sighted. And so people come from all over the world to stay at this hotel. And it was kind of nice because there's no TV, only internet in one place where the ghosts let us have the internet. And so it was I taught there 4 days in the last 2 weeks. So it was kind of nice to take that social media break. I didn't think I was that attached to the internet, but I certainly was.
I was wondering when you went back to actual live school, and I saw on the news tonight there was a 47 car pile up on I-5, and I figured, oh, she's back on the road driving to and from. So welcome back to did the car started? You remembered how to do all that stuff?
Yeah, it was just a little hard to put on. I wore my yoga pants for 23 months, so to put on hard pants and teach in person is really exhausting, actually. It's a lot different. There's a lot more preparation, like getting all the charts ready, making sure that everything is there. And I cried when I had to teach on Zoom, and instead I quit. And now I'm like, I got so used to teaching on Zoom, I had to my brain had to kind of readjust to teaching in person. But it's really nice.
I sold my Lululemon stock as soon as the epidemic was lifted. I figured they're going in the tank now, and maybe I'll move it over to whatever the hard stuff. So, well, great trip to California. Got to do my 40th high school reunion, which was, what I noticed real quick. I want to get to our guests, but we were all looking at foreheads, and I'm and I realized that the word hair is the only word that when you make it plural, it means less, because, I had hair as a youngster, and now I have hairs. So when you say that you have hairs, that's not a good thing. That means it's the only word I can think of that when you make it plural, it means less. So
I think I'm going to stay up tonight thinking about how brilliant that statement was.
Thank you very little. I appreciate it. You're so wonderful. What's that?
Anytime.
Do you know what? I was looking up support, because there's so much in recovery or whatever you want to call it, support, having someone that's got your back, all these things. And I realized, why the hell am I doing a show with Peggy? Because you're everything. You're the one over, you're the negative, you're the opposite, the reciprocal of everything that is supposed to be someone that is supporting in your journey. Anyways, with that, Meg Geisewite, Vanna, I'll like to buy another vowel. How are you doing? Welcome.
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
So Meg is the author of a book called Intoxicating Lies, which came out when?
It is coming out January 3rd, 2023.
It is. So there's some samples or some snippets or whatever, and I'm going to run the whatever, the little letters across the bottom where people can find it. But you kind of specialize in gray area drinking, which fascinates me because I wonder, is gray area a stopping place for some? Is it a inevitable transition phase that I would have liked to have held on to that term for a while and just use that as an excuse and just another reason I'm not that bad. I'm just a gray area drinker. But where is that, and how did that come to be your kind of focus?
Sure. So what happened with me was I was probably what you would say like a social recreational drinker. And then I had 3 pretty big life challenging events back to back that happened. And I started shifting my drinking to more of a medicinal nighttime reward. I deserved it. I was going through a lot with these events. And so what ended up scaring me was I got to a point, I'm a mother of 2. My daughter is 15 and my son is almost 13. And when I found that my drinking was starting to take a little bit more in control of me was when I no longer wanted my kids to do sports in the evening so I could come home to my rewarding glass of wine. And that scared me.
Wow.
And so I really fell into this mommy wine culture that is very prevalent in our society. But at the time I didn't realize it and didn't know it. So I had been looking at an ad for Sober Sis online for several months, but I kept thinking about what my therapist had said to me, which was, I finally got the courage up to ask her, I think I have a drinking problem. And she said, no, I don't think you do. I think that you're thinking about it too much. Well, that kept me drinking like that for 2 more years. And then I finally got to that point where I didn't want to even have my kids do sports so I could come home to a drink. Finally clicked on that Sober Sis button and joined a wonderful community where Peggy is. And in that space, I could really resonate with all of the other women and their drinking, which they were calling gray area drinking. And I started to follow Jolene Park, who is the leading authority on gray area drinking, and really felt like for the first time, I wasn't alone and crazy in my story. Everybody kept saying, no, your drinking is normal. No, you drink just like I do. But I had this like nudge and this small inner voice that kept telling me something's wrong. This is not right. And it scared me when I was looking forward to coming home to that wine every night. So Jolene Park defines gray area drinking as that space between every now and again drinking and end stage drinking. So it is a large space on the alcohol use disorder spectrum. And the hues in that gray area can be a lighter hue of gray or a darker area where you're getting closer to the severe, where you're physically and psychologically dependent on alcohol. And I was probably, as Jen in Sober Sis describes it, it's a one-way drinking highway. And I was slowly kind of inching my way down that highway, and I knew it. My inner knowing was telling me, you need to stop. This is a problem. And instead of feeling alone and crazy, I am so glad that I joined Sober Sis because I realized I was not alone. There were thousands of women that felt just like I did. And that made me start to wonder, why are there so many women that are feeling like this and caught in this mommy wine culture as well? And I started journaling. I've always been a big journaler. I've always loved to write. And my Sober Sis group said to me, you really should write a book. And at that time, it's been, I can't believe in 2 weeks, I'll be 3 years alcohol free. Yay. But at that time, I really could not find any books that were talking about gray area drinking or being stuck in that mommy wine culture. And now there are many books, but of course they say you write the book that you will wish that you could read. And so I started writing, and the book really takes you through what I believe, which is the 5 most common lies we tell ourselves about alcohol and the lies that we tell ourselves about ourselves. And so I take you through that journey as well in the book. But it's a sober, curious journey that when I initially started, I did not want to break up with alcohol. I felt like I just wanted to rein it in a little bit, go back to being that social, normal drinker and just get a few tools under my belt. But after doing the 21-day reset, and then I did Annie Grace's alcohol experiment after that, because Jen was creating her alcohol-free lifestyle program at the time. It wasn't completely done. So I did Annie Grace's alcohol experiment, and I read Annie Grace's Naked Mind. It was like the veil came down and the truths were coming out. And I started asking myself all kinds of questions like, why am I doing this? What is this providing for me? Why aren't we warned about this? Why is this more dangerous than cocaine and meth? And what, it was like all these questions. I just kept digging and reading more, like William Porter's book, Alcohol Explained, and Holly Whitaker's book, Quit Like a Woman. And it just started to open my eyes to, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? This is providing nothing for my life. It's only taking versus giving.
Do you, if you're in the spectrum, and I think my mind looks at the spectrum as numbers, and that's maybe wrong. And I want to hear this because it's like, well, Jeff, if you have between, 2 beers and 4 beers, you're in that. And it's like, well, you mean by 8 a.m., of course, is there an asterisk? But, if I'm in the spectrum, but is that wrong to look at it as a numbers? Do I look at it as progression, or do I look at it based upon the questions of how is it affecting my life?
Yeah.
Is it because if I just go numbers, is that the way to judge it, or judge myself, or is it just based on the questions you're going to ask?
Well, I even say this in the book. I'm not here to diagnose anyone. I'm not a doctor, but I'm just an ordinary mom who felt trapped in the detox to retox loop. But what I would, and I do say in my book, is that the NIAAA says that men should have 4 or fewer drinks per day, and women is 3 or fewer a day. That's low risk drinking. That's kind of their gray area drinking. So there are some numbers attached to it, but I can tell you I was drinking in that spectrum, and my patience was shortened all the time with my kids. I woke up every day kind of in a slight fog. My whole world was a shade of gray, and I didn't even know it because I'd been in it for so long that it just seemed normal, and everybody around me was drinking like I was. So I didn't think it was a problem. And, when you have a health expert, a therapist like myself, or a wellness coach tell you that your drinking is fine and normal and don't worry about it, I think it gives our culture like the permission slip to go ahead and continue down this one-way drinking highway. And that's why I wrote my book, because I want to catch people before it gets into those darker grays or even into being dependent on alcohol. And so I think it goes back to what you said, Jeff. You have to ask yourself, what is this doing? I mean, it's on your website. I looked at your website. What is this? Is alcohol helping me achieve my goals? Am I becoming the best version of myself with alcohol? And that's what I go through each chapter, is the 5 lies and beliefs that we actually have, that we believe alcohol gives us. And that's why we stay trapped. And there's this whole deprivation mindset that happens too. And until we get out of those lies and beliefs, we will stay in a deprivation mindset.
At what point, Meg, did you decide that you were going to put down the glass for good?
It was during the AFL program within Sober Sis. It was like
AFL is what?
The alcohol-free lifestyle program with Sober Sis. It's a 90-day program. I had never felt better after the reset. And I thought, you know what, I was getting more and more curious, doing more and more, digging into the science. I'm a pharmaceutical sales rep, so I love the science. And I believe the truth is always in the science. And so the more digging I did and the more time I thought, you know what, I'm going to give my brain 100 days and see how I feel. And there was a real shift that happened for me around 100 days. And, you know, that's why I think we're lured in by these, and I talk about it in my book, these 30-day challenges and these things, because we're like, oh, quick fix. I'm in instant gratification society. Let me do this really quickly and get back to in shape or not drinking or whatever it is. And then we just slowly go back to the way that we were. And, you know, I think it takes a longer period of time, you know, to give your body a real retraining, resetting, rewiring of our thoughts and our beliefs. And one of the things that helped me the most was just every time the word drink would come up, I would call it a drug. Do you want a drug? Do I want one glass of do I want one glass of a depressant? Do I want to moderate my carcinogenic? I mean, if you just start talking to yourself that way, you know, when you sit at a bar and they put a little umbrella in the glass, I would say to myself, it's just fancy gasoline, you know, and then your brain says, well, that doesn't make any sense. I don't want that. And that's how I started talking to myself and rewiring it with the help of Annie's book, really, and all the lessons that we learned in Sober Cess as well.
I love that so much. Jeff, do you have any?
Well, I want to get into, I want to ask a question that came up with someone I'm working with, and this is a lot, and then I want to get into your 5 intoxicating lies, which I is brilliant or great stuff. But I wanted to ask you, because I'm working with someone had about 5 months, things were going great, and then broke, and it was I guess stopped doing what we were doing. Assumed, you know, it was one of those, well, I got 5 months. This is the big event. I can have a couple and I'll be back. And of course we know how that ends. And I wanted to look, you know, what could we have done? What could this person have done? What should this person have done to not lose that memory of why we did it? Being short of tattooing the reasons on my arm, so every time I look down, I'm going to see it. What is your advice for someone to avoid forgetting? Because I remember last night, in 5 months, last night, suddenly I'm only, you know, you get that euphoric recall. Well, yeah, maybe that wasn't so bad. You know, besides the DUI, we really had a good time that night. You know, that's how my mind will work for me. So how do you give someone what tools to keep from getting that 5 month? Maybe this will be different.
Well, I can tell you from my own experience, I drank 15 months after quitting drinking. So I stopped drinking on November 1st, 2019. And 15 months later, we were in the thick of COVID. And I was trapped inside with all of my people who were driving me crazy. My sales were down because I was trying to sell online to doctors over Zoom, which is nearly impossible. My kids were fighting constantly. You know, it was all the things. My husband and I couldn't agree on politics. I mean, it just was that F it moment. And I drank. And, you know, I think that you get to a place sometimes in your journey where you have a, like what I call drinking amnesia. I think that William Porter talks about it in his book. And it's a real thing where you think, oh, it wasn't that bad. And it's been so long. And the problem with the thing goes back to what I just said, is that you still are stuck in a deprivation mindset. I still had this lurking belief in my brain, even 15 months later, that if everything went awry, I could fall back on alcohol. So for me, it was the crutch, right? It was the crutch still lingering back there, that in my F it moment, I could go back to it. And that's what I did. And that data point or that feedback pushed me completely to the other side. It burned going down. My daughter came down the stairs, and I was in the basement with my wine at the time. And she said to me with tears in her eyes, "Is this my fault?" And it was like my why got slapped across my face. I think that's the other thing you have to go back to is, why do you want to do this? Why are you doing this? And
so what could you have done differently?
I could have taken a lot of deep breaths, done some deep breathing, gone and meditated for 20 minutes. I'm doing all kinds of things now that when I'm triggered, and it happens all the time, where I can go for a walk to process those feelings, journal it. I just was still in the infancy of my journey, and I didn't have all the tools properly set up for me in a place where I still thought I needed that. I still thought it was a solution. I still had a lurking belief with it in my mind. And once I shifted out of that and realized those problems were still going to be there the next day, it just put it on hold. And so it just was a place of, the next night it scared the crap out of me because I could literally taste the Merlot in my throat. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I haven't drank in 15 months and now I can taste this at 5 p.m. the next day. Like, how addictive is this really? This must be truly, addictive. If 24 hours later, I can taste that in my mouth and my brain's looking for that dopamine hit. So, you have to go find that dopamine somewhere else, and that reward. It depends on what you're looking for. Is it the reward that you want, or is it the crutch that you need and the outlet and the escape? What is it that in your mind you still believe? Which lie do you still believe it is providing you?
I think the tools, I have tried to practice the tools when I didn't need them, just to make it mental muscle memory. So something that was just a small trigger, I practiced, take a breath, calm down, think about it. The times that maybe willpower would have been enough to get through that trigger, let's rehearse. While I don't have to, let's rehearse now and ingrain these practices in so that when I do need them, when it hits the fan,
right,
it won't be something new to do. It'll be a reaction that I've already rehearsed. So I practice it when I don't need it, just to make it a new norm.
I love that. I think that's so good. I know recently I fell down a flight of stairs, and I ended up finding out after 6 months of PT that I was going to have surgery. And, it was one of those things where I was going to have to go out of work, and everything, my life was going to have to be put on hold, and all the kids' stuff. And the first thing my brain said to me was, let's go for a walk. Let's process this. Let's figure this out. And I was like, God, that's when you've rewired your brain, right? Because normally it would have been, oh, I need a drink. I deserve it.
I'm really glad you're talking about this, because there are so many people at a year, at 15 months that I go to a lot of meetings, and they'll say, I'm just not happy, and I still have those thoughts, and it just drives me crazy. And I love having someone like you on, because I think when you finally make it to the other side, I think we become the givers of hope. Mm-hmm. And when they see you and they see others like you, it's just not a myth that you actually really don't think about picking up a glass of wine. I was shocked when that happened to me too. Mm-hmm. I think the other part of it is that if you look around, a lot of us, and not to exclude Jeff, but there's a lot of successful women out there that have careers. Mm-hmm. And so we're good at what we do. And I had this mindset that I could control alcohol and then give it up, which is so ridiculous. But just to prove to everybody in my family that I had alcohol under control, and then I'm going to stop drinking it, which was a huge lie. Yeah. And that kind of goes into, can you talk about some of your life?
Yeah, sure. I'm going to run real quick. I'm going to turn this on. Just where's my little banner where people can reach it? Because this is great stuff. So
it's really good.
Here's the link below where you can actually get a sample of the book, the first couple of chapters.
The first chapter, yes.
First chapter, and it talks about these 5 intoxicating lies. So yeah, let's give some freebie away tonight.
So the 5 most common lies we tell ourselves about alcohol are the first 5 chapters in the book. And the first one is, and we just talked about it, is that I deserve a drink. And, we are taught this. We're taught to not feel, to just be happy, and to check out, whether that's with work, food, alcohol, drugs, whatever it is. It's like, you deserve it, right? To check out, to escape. And so what I learned through my journey is what women in particular really need is rest. When you're juggling, especially during COVID, drinking went up 41% in women. They were trying to juggle the home, homeschooling kids, their jobs, their marriages, and it was just overwhelming. And what were we told? Have a quarantini. That will solve it, and so it's such BS. What we really need is not only rest, and I'm talking about true rest, where you're really, taking time out to just kind of be and not do. And the other thing is that we need community and connection. We know that connection is the antidote to addiction. So that I go over this in that first chapter. The second chapter and the second lie is you don't have a drinking problem. And again, I recently was speaking to somebody who he drinks every night, and he said, but my doctor's fine with it. But it goes back to what we talked about. Are you fine with it? Or is it serving you? Are you becoming the best version of you? Are you fulfilling your dreams? And is your inner knowing nudging you towards that this isn't right, or that something's off? I just getting curious. And I could never really quit for more than 2 weeks. And that was another thing that scared me. Why couldn't I stay? I have a friend who only drinks on the weekends, but she can't stop just her weekend drinking. And so she's exploring her relationship with alcohol. So there's nothing wrong. That's the other thing the other reason I wrote this book is that I want us to lose the stigma around exploring our relationship with alcohol. Why are we the problem when we decide to do this? No, it's the problem. It's a drug. So you don't have a drinking problem. If someone's saying that to you, listen to yourself, listen to what, and get curious of what it's providing for your life. The third lie is I can control my drinking. So, Peggy was just talking about that. And that is a big one for gray area drinkers. They think that they can go back to maybe being a take it or leave it drinker after they've stopped being, or they've tried a sober October or a dry January. And all I can say is every time I tried to stop, I slowly over time would go back to my old drinking habits. And it just was something that I couldn't control. I was always circling the rim of the infamous pitcher plant and falling down into it unknowingly over time. And it's so insidious, and we just don't even realize that it's happening. So that's another lie, that we think we can control our alcohol. We might for a little bit, but slowly over time, our tolerance grows and we need more of it. And it calls us back for more and makes us feel crazy if we don't. The fourth lie is being sober is boring. I know that was my greatest fear when I gave up drinking, because it was one of my strongest beliefs that I believed that I would not be fun if I didn't have a drink. And that is just not true. I mean, it's just what is boring is being hungover all day. That's what's boring. Not being present for conversations and forgetting what people have said to you. Boring is being too checked out to participate in things with my kids, or even with my, work where I wasn't listening as closely to my clients. And so that's another lie.
You know what I found, Meg, is also boring is watching the concert that I was too hammered to remember last night, watching it on my phone that I videotaped where the sound stinks and the video's lousy. You know, what's not boring is enjoying the moment.
That's
boring
right.
is trying to remember the moment because I can't on a phone.
That's right.
That's pretty boring to me. That's one that I've learned.
I mean, there's just nothing better than being clear-minded, present, whether it's at a concert, a family thing with your children, wherever it is that you are, and also not feeling that lure like I got to go get another drink. I mean, so
that's so big.
Oh, there's so much freedom. I had no idea. And the guardrails with trying to control your moderation. That's the other thing I didn't mention. Oh my God. I'll only drink on the weekends. I'll only drink this. And then we blow our guardrails out of the water and realize we can't even keep them. I mean,
it's never had fun when I was moderating. I never enjoyed when I was moderating.
It's like another prison. It's just there's no freedom.
Totally.
And the last one is behind every great mom is a bottle of wine. I bought the tea towels, the t-shirts, the napkins. I truly believed that alcohol was the solution and self-care to my mommy challenges and stresses. And it couldn't be further from the truth. Our kids need us. They need us to be present-minded, to be involved in their activities, to want to play with them. I am so angry at the big alcohol industry for robbing me of years with my kids where I was too hungover on the beach to get in the water and play with them. That's another reason why I want to get this word out and spread it to every mom out there. Alcohol is not the solution. It is not self-care. In fact, my kids have told me now, Mom, you have so much more patience since you quit drinking. That's what they want.
The new beliefs, and I'm a big proponent in challenging alcohol to the facts, not what I think about it, but put it down on paper. And if I say it relaxes me, that's fine. If that's what you believe, put down the facts and don't just look at the moment that you crack the beer or the wine, but look at 2 hours later, look at before you go to bed, look at tomorrow morning and see how relaxed you are tomorrow morning.
Right.
I'm really relaxed when I'm sweating because of what I didn't get done last night and what I did get done last night that I regret that I did last. That's not relaxing for me. So I'm a big proponent, but once the belief that I can have fun without alcohol, believing it is one thing, put it into action. I have to, for it to be concrete for me, I've got to, even though I believe it, I got to prove it and live it. And when you live it, you say, hell yeah, that's it. It really is true. I had a blast without it. That's when it cements for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
I totally agree too.
Can I just ask one more question? I'd really like to know what, what I know your daughter said she feels really safe with you. Do you guys talk about big alcohol and how she is one of their main targets? I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
We've had many conversations about alcohol. Unfortunately, I lost my best friend my freshman year to a drinking and driving accident. And so we've had discussions about the importance of not drinking and driving. But since I've written this book and been doing all this work, we've been just talking about that it's a drug. And, it is just like vaping. It's something that's addictive. And unfortunately for girls in particular, and I talk about this in my book as well, it can put you in some really bad situations where you can't make good decisions. And And so we've talked about the risks that are associated with it. And one of the things that I'm so proud of her, I think because we've had numerous conversations about what it truly is and all the lies around it, and that she's going to get peer pressure to do it. She said to me about a month ago, she said, you know what, Mom, I don't need alcohol to have fun. And that's huge at 15 years old to realize that, you know? And so I think when we make these choices as mothers, we are actually becoming role models for our children to say, I don't have to have this to have fun. I grew up around my parents having cocktail parties, going to cocktail parties, hearing about how they were going to let off the steam of the week. And so that became ingrained in me. I believe that's how I had to connect with other people, or how I would be socially accepted. And my daughter's watching me, see that is not true. You don't need it to have fun. I mean, we go to all the same things. Of course, the firsts were hard and awkward and uncomfortable and shaky. And I write about that too. But, it's then you realize this is all a lie. And we are joyful human beings. That inner child that love to play and do all those things is still within you. Bring her out, because she's got so much to offer to this world. And our children need to see that. They don't need to see a mom who's checked out or needs to escape or can't handle life stresses.
What are they going to believe when they hear us say you don't need to have fun, and yet they look and see us drinking? So obviously our actions say, no, I'm going to tell you this, but I'm drinking to have fun. Right. So the message we send, they're watching. They're not just hearing these words that our actions speak louder than that.
They are watching.
That's what they're going to believe.
There's a story in my book about, I was out to lunch, and there was a mother and daughter that were having lunch, and the mother's t-shirt said, "All you need is wine." And my heart actually broke for not only the mother, but really the daughter, because that is the message that her mom is sending to her daughter, and it wasn't a judgment. It wasn't a shame thing. It was like, I sat there and wanted to go over and say, it's not true. It's just not true. There's so much more to life without alcohol. In fact, it's technicolor. It stops being gray.
I agree. How do we get your book? Is there a way to pre-order your book? And how do we do that? I'll tell you that I've read most of Meg's book, and it is, there's a lot of self-help quit lit books out there right now, but hers just goes down smooth. I'm sorry. It is a beautiful, beautiful book. And I love you, and I love your book. So how do we get it?
Well, I love your book too. And you've been a mentor to me on this entire book journey. So I couldn't have done this without you, Peggy. You really paved the way for me and have been there for me every step of the way. And I'm so grateful. And Jeff, thank you for having me here. But you can find Intoxicating Lies everywhere books are sold, and Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble, Goodreads, anywhere books are sold. And it's available for pre-order right now. If you go to my website, intoxicatinglies.com, you can download the first chapter for free and start reading today. And if you go to intoxicatinglies.com/common, which Jeff has up on the ticker, that's where you can get the printable PDF of the 5 most common lies that we tell ourselves. And I just encourage you to print out that PDF and ask yourself which one you're telling yourself. Journal what you believe, like you said, Jeff. Journal what do you believe it's providing for you. I always go back to that, because there's some lurking belief that is not true still in your brain that's keeping you trapped.
There's a difference between what we believe and what we want to believe versus the facts. Because I don't want to believe that I'm going to be happy without alcohol for the rest of my life. That, at that point 3 years ago, scared the hell out of me. Mm-hmm. I didn't want that to be my truth.
Yeah.
I wanted my truth to be, hey, I found the magic pill that's going to let you drink without all the crap that comes with it.
But it doesn't exist. And, it's just these ingrained messages that, our culture, our society has, and big alcohol has ingrained into your brain. And with great suffering comes great profit. And, I'm done feeding them the money. There's too much to this life to be throwing it down the drain with alcohol. So
the latest commercials, one is a gal comes off the tennis court, and the first thing, friend hands her a beer. Another one is coming off of running a race or running a long run, and the first thing is that there's your reward. You've earned it, and it's like
Oh, I used to
athletic. If it's athletic, we'll take it. Go ahead.
Like the mom water that's healthy. Yeah, I used to bike 20 miles, and then there was a restaurant bar at the end of the trail, and I used to reward myself with a glass of Prosecco. I was like, see, I'm in control. I just biked 20 miles. I don't have a problem. I'm fine. Like I would literally tell myself these things, and what was I even doing? Like I look back on it and I'm like, that doesn't even make sense, but it's just all the messaging and thinking that we have lie to ourselves because we've learned it growing up. We've seen it on commercials and movies and, in all of the marketing. And so it just really is this rewiring of saying, do I want a drug? Do I want one drug? Do I want to moderate drugs? Do I want a carcinogenic?
Yeah.
Can I moderate my depressant?
Right.
I was going to mention that I rode 28 miles up in Tahoe bike, but Peggy would dive through the camera to yell at everyone that it was an electric bike, and I didn't even work. So I'm not even going to mention it. Someone wants to steal any bit of joy and self-value that I give myself.
Oh yeah, Amy Orr calls it cancer juice. How appropriate is that?
That's another great way of rewiring.
Let's have you back really close to when your book releases.
I would love that.
Great month to do that.
I love that. Thank you for having me. This was so much fun.
Love you so much.
The 5 lies. That's all. You just start with that. Examine those.
Get curious.
It's so good.
It's eye-awakening, or whatever the words are. It's fantastic. It's good stuff. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, guys.
Always great to see you. See, you can't even say anything back. All right. Take care. Stay on, Meg. We'll talk soon. I got parting gifts for you. We'll talk to everyone soon. Have a great one.
Bye.